Okay, so I had to triple check my counting on this list because I kept thinking there were 27 and then forgetting one of the healing spells that don't do anything. And after finding all 28 incantations in a little under 3 days with minimal help from wiki sites and walkthroughs, I can confidently say I'm still not tired of this game, surprisingly. I think the biggest reason why is I hear way too many people talking about the DLC content being too hard, and I feel like I'm the only one remembering the exact same things that were being said about the base game before videos with titles like Top 100 Ways to Dodge Waterfowl started being churned out like a month after launch. The difficulty level is fine, guys. The new Erdtree system just has some growing pains is all. Just give it a bit of time. Give it like 2 weeks. You like plowing through quiet neighborhoods and mowing down innocent road signs in your Honda Civic? Well, in Asphalt Legends Unite, I'm pretty sure there aren't any Hondas anywhere, but you can choose from over 250 hypercars like the BMW Z4 or the Porsche 911 Targa. I don't know a lot about hypercars, but that is a cool-ass name. Asphalt Legends Unite has some of the most impressive cross-play capability of any game I've ever even seen. Like, it supports just about every mainstream console there is. PS5, PS4, Xbox, PC, obviously, Nintendo Switch, and even your phone. So if you only have a PS5 and your best friend only has a Nintendo Switch, then guess what game you guys can play together? You can play this game literally anywhere. I'm pretty sure you could play this game while giving someone an eye exam. If you're familiar with Asphalt 9, you probably remember how insanely dramatic and over the top some of the courses were designed to be. You'd be racing through tornadoes and downed landslides, some real Mad Max kind of shit. And I don't know enough about the entire franchise to properly gauge where the benchmark should be for absurdity, but the brief they sent me said something about a neon octopus, so can't wait to get my ass kicked by whatever that is. The game is completely free to play, and you'll be able to download it for PS5, PS4, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and all mobile devices on July 17th. You can download the game through the QR code right here. Everyone who downloads the game during launch day will receive tons of special bonus rewards upon sign up. Aspect of the Crucible Bloom. This shit is ass. From the Ravine North Grace, head west until you find a giant Miranda Sprout, and the incantation will be next to a dead guy right here on the map. I actually got it to deal some surprisingly good damage against some of the Drake bosses in the Jagged Peak area, but only if they manage to stay completely still. But it doesn't really need stressing how never that happens with anything in this DLC or this game. It is a Crucible incantation, which means it does get boosted by the Crucible armor set, but multiplying 0 damage by an extra 17% is still 0 damage. This rat is standing completely still. I am casting this spell without any aggro on me whatsoever, and it still could not hit more than 3 to 4 separate times per cast. I'm sure the damage would be promising enough if the bullet spacing wasn't so awkwardly sparse, but until someone in the office takes a look at it, my tip for this one is a big ol' ignore. Aspect of the Crucible, Thorns. Fuck T-posing. All my homies breakdance to assert dominance. You get this by putting down the golden hippopotamus guarding the main gate at Shadow Keep. Charge casting moves the player's hitbox around a lot, which makes it good to dodge certain attacks, especially since the hitbox displacement makes it to where some horizontal and thrusting attacks can easily just fly right over you. Wearing one of the Crucible sets benefits it with 17% extra damage, as it does with all Crucible incantations. If you're looking for a nice multi-hit physical damage scattergun, Thorns is vastly superior to Bird Feathers in just about every way possible. Considerably less FP usage, the potential to evade attacks during the cast animation, and just a much more concentrated cone of damage that gets applied much quicker to surrounding targets. Bayle's Flame Lightning. So which is it? You can't just name a spell something like this and expect us not to ask questions. Okay, so I tested it, and apparently the answer is both. And physical damage at the point of impact. It deals physical, fire, and lightning damage. This sounds ridiculous, but I'm not, this isn't a joke. The way this incantation works is actually really interesting because it has elements of both an impact spell like Dragon Claw and a lingering pool of after damage you would see on something like Magma Sorceries. The immediate point of impact hands out 250 physical and lightning damage as its base, with an extra 190 base fire damage. But there's also a group of bullets that hang around the impact zone for a short second that deal 150 and 200 fire and lightning damage respectively. That's, Jesus Christ, that's a lot of numbers. So if you've ever noticed something doesn't completely get hit by the impact but still takes a decent bit of damage shortly afterwards, this is exactly why. Having to look 3 full seconds into the future at any given point in time is tedious and exhausting. So the little comeuppance for being close enough to a target kinda justifies the extremely long casting time in my opinion. It's not my favorite incantation, but I do think it's the most well-rounded attack spell in the DLC. Bayle's Tyranny. It's a big blast of fire and lightning right in front of your face. It's Pretty straightforward. One of the two incantations traded in at the Grand Dragon Altar using the Heart of Bayle, the other being Bayle's Flame Lightning. One thing to note about the Bayle incantations is that they only have an arcane requirement, unlike other Dragon Communion spells, which usually have both an arcane and a faith benchmark. As for the spell itself, it more or less operates under the same rules as the Flame Lightning spell, which is a shitload of damage immediately up front, followed by smaller, isolated shitloads of damage that get applied during the next second or two. There is no physical damage with this one, I'm guessing because it's a heat wave attack instead of impaling someone with a giant fingernail. 535 total base damage for the initial hit this time, split between fire and lightning. Something else I thought was interesting was the Flame Lightning spell slightly focuses more on lightning damage, while the Tyranny spell has a slight bias towards fire, making this small gathering of only 2 incantations the most flexible duo of spells I think the game ever throws at you. Divine Beast Tornado. This drops from the Dancing Lion and shut the fuck up. From the Ancient Stairway Grace, head down past the Golem, lobbing arrows at you, and you'll see him in a temple-looking building. It only deals 160 base physical damage, 200 if charged, but it hangs around for a second after reaching its maximum distance, meaning with skillful casting, you can catch an enemy at the tip of it for a second chunk of damage. 24 FP is not insignificant. It's not too weighty given this is post-endgame content, but the loss is still enough to emotionally impact me negatively if it completely misses its mark. And if you're not thinking properly while using this, that's just gonna happen a lot. You ever heard of a tornado that can't travel up slopes or cliffs or even a couple stairs? Well, that's what it's like to live life as the Divine Beast Tornado. Man, tornadoes as a natural disaster must be a joke in the lands between if these are the physical laws they're forced to exist under. Severe tornado warning in Limgrave for the next 2 hours. You can stay safe by retreating to the 2nd floor of your house. Dad, we don't have a 2nd floor. That's okay, son. If we see it, we'll just stand on the fucking coffee table for 5 minutes and it won't ever reach us. Divine Bird Feathers. From Ancient Ruins west, head down the cave and up the stairs and then to the left. Take the elevator and it'll be in the lake. Man, I'm sorry, but every time I try to use this against something more threatening than a snail, my ass just gets mopped. I'm just a leftover bag of Wendy's getting thrown into a corner somewhere and forgotten about for 2 weeks. Capturing good footage for this incantation was one of the most grueling endeavors I could have signed up for. Like, I actually just stopped having fun whenever I needed to use this. It only does physical damage, which really surprised me considering its association with holy enemies, and targets can only take damage from it every 0.3 seconds, with a shooting interval of 0.1 seconds. That means 2 of every 3 ticks will amount to absolutely, objectively nothing. And just for the sake of getting technical, because this spell makes me so tremendously upset, at 3 FP every 10th of a second, that essentially means you're using 9 FP to deal 42 base physical damage to any given enemy once. Whatever somewhat redeemable damage it's capable of gets eclipsed completely by its ridiculous amount of FP and stamina use. That is 30 FP per second you're flushing down the toilet. That's like 2 whole Thorns aspects you could be casting. Or a single KLS. You know how much damage that thing does? Dragonbolt of Florissax. Okay, so there's a whole ass side quest this incantation is tied to involving Tiolier and Egon, but basically the gist of it is talk to Egon, summon him during the Bayle fight, keep him alive. Easier said than done. 10% damage negation versus all elements, including physical. It's just nice to have. It doesn't really have a particular strength or weakness. It's just straight up extra defense for anyone who feels like they need it. It's like having 2 extra scatter tree levels just sitting in your back pocket that you can pop out whenever you feel like. It needs 52 faith, it drowns your FP bar if you have to cast it more than a couple times, and 10% feels less significant than ever before with how hard some of the DLC bosses can punch. I don't feel like it's too crazy to ask for a little more, but at this rate, given their track record with Dragonbolt buffs, I'm just glad they didn't fuck it up. Electrocharge. Are you serious? Is this really all it does? This needs 26 FP to cast, and this is all it can give me. You find this in the Fog Rift Catacombs. Take the elevator down and follow the natural course of the area until you get to a second elevator. Ride that down and continue into the giant room with more spike ceilings. Take this hole down, and you can probably find it from there. Just look around a little. I'm not a fucking walkthrough channel. The initial hitbox and damage really isn't too bad, but it always feels a little smaller than it should be. Not a single speck or semblance of hyper armor anywhere to be found, so as to keep up nicely with the Elden Ring tradition, which means charging it is a very hefty gamble, so you'd better know what you're doing. That 262 base damage looks pretty, but you're gonna need to work for it. Use it alongside a Bullgoat Talisman with a moderately heavy armor set to shrug off glancing blows that will definitely interrupt your cast otherwise. I had never noticed it before I got into writing the entry for this incantation, but there is water everywhere in this game, and anything that's wet takes 10% more lightning damage than normal, so a spell like this is just nice to have on your person as a backup in the case of light showers. It's also a nice counter counter to Uplifting Aromatic, so perfumer groups become an even more underwhelming fight. It's niche, and you'll feel pretty stupid missing with it, but a little bit of poise goes a long way on this one. Fire Serpent. Find it in Shadowkeep, looted off a dead dude. From the storehouse back section, Grace, head straight out and climb up a long ladder, then head right up the staircase and past the shelves of stone tablets. The casting animation firmly locking you in a standstill feels a bit unnatural and awkward, but the short delay before the hit bullet combined with the fast recovery time means it can be comboed up with pretty much anything with a reasonable amount of comfort. Despite being a fire-themed DLC, I was surprised by the amount of enemies fire was actually wonderful against. Dancing Lion, weak to fire. Rugalea, weak to fire. Giant Hippos, weak to well, you find them in water in most cases, so I guess that doesn't matter too much. Would help its case a lot if the bullet didn't fizzle out like a tiny fart 6 feet in front of you. A little more range wouldn't exactly take the spell to new heights or anything. I don't know why it stops so short of everything. The regular uncharged variant gives you 168 base fire damage, but charging the spell increases its damage to 210, and with very little difference in casting time. No matter the situation, if you can charge it, you absolutely should. It's one of the many straight flying projectiles added to your collection. It's fun, it's dependable, and there's little else I can say about it. Furious Blade of Ansbach. You can't even get to it until you've unlocked the final area of the DLC, but it'll be right here waiting for you when you do. This one felt a little weird to use, but after I got used to spacing out the distance on it properly, it honestly became one of my favorite fire incantations. It's also the only new Blood Flame incantation in the DLC, and that really sucks because I always felt like that category in particular was a bit lacking. The regular cast has 2 slashes and a quick jet of fire that molests your enemies for 145 base fire damage, and the charged variant comprises 3 slashes with the exact same amount of damage. Higher stagger values on the charged attack though, which is nice. You'll see this difference mostly against smaller enemies, soldiers, and black knights and whatnot. I would definitely be aiming to charge this one whenever you can. Going in with the regular 1-2 just doesn't give enough damage to finish something off most of the time. Like, you really need that extra bit of damage from the charged attack, no matter how insignificant it feels. Ghostflame Breath. It's another Dragon Communion spell. If you know how to use the others, then you know how to use this one. You can trade 3 Dragon Hearts for this at the Grand Dragon Altar in the Jagged Peak. Unfortunately, if you're a Faith Arcane build, this is going to be the single best magic damage option given to you by the DLC. And I can't even think of any big bosses with a magic weakness. Bayle, maybe? Nope, just checked. He does not. And even if he did, I'd still rather use the Dragon Hunter Katana. What's funny is, even though this is a standard unnamed Dragon Breath incantation, it still completely power creeps the Glintstone Breath incantation because it deals 9 more base damage per tick in addition to its Frostbite status, which means the only reason to ever use Glintstone Breath over this incantation is FP efficiency. And if you're running a Dragon Communion build, you obviously don't give a shit about that, so. Giant Golden Arc. Getting to this one is a little weird, but you need to craft a hefty furnace pot and throw it at the downed one blocking the ruins of Unt entrance. He'll wake up, revealing the entrance, and it's, well, if you can get to the chest without dying like a fucking dumbass like I did, then it's in that chest right there. Really good against Horned Warriors and Fire Knights due to their weakness to holy damage. And yeah, I know it sounds out of place, but Horned Warriors are in fact weak to holy damage, I checked. I tend to gravitate towards this one over the 3-tap because it has slower acceleration, which gives it more combo ability with other fast spells like KLS and Fire Serpent. It's mostly just a Glintstone Arc for Faith users, but it can be charged to inflict heavier damage. The outer edges of the bullet can go through walls, which is nice. And I'm just really tired of seeing holy builds spend the past 8 years beating fuckers over the head with an ethereal frisbee as their only means of offense. Golden Arcs. I'm starting to think holy damage feels more impressive in the DLC just because there's a lot more shit with holy weaknesses walking around. 240 total base damage is not at all what I expected from an incantation like this, and honestly, even that sounds weak as shit. But judging it by its damage numbers alone is just not how to quantify efficiency in this case. Simple, straightforward projectiles that don't ask for the FP equivalent of a down payment on a car were always a pretty scarce resource for holy builds. At least with that in mind, the 2 arc incantations are probably some of the best around just due to their reliability. Also, 12 FP. Not bad. Thought it'd be a little more for the damage, so I'm pleasantly surprised, even though I do have a hunch it'll suck balls anywhere outside the DLC. Heal from Afar. You get this by heading north from Morth Ruins until you find this little space here. It'll be guarded by 3 perfumers. A base healing amount of 420, which sounds low because it is, but the base requirement is 18 faith, and with a good seal, this will likely total out to around 600 plus. Comparatively, you can get around 1300 plus healing with 80 faith just by shooting it into a wall at yourself. Throw the Erdtree seal in there and you can boost the final heal into the 1500s. As for the allied heal effect, I'm not a summoner, mostly because I forget they exist half the time like everyone else, but the sharp difficulty spike and the new shit-a-tree scaling system pushed me just enough into considering it that I decided it was the perfect way to showcase one of the 2 new healing spells in the DLC. Even with extremely agile summons like the Warhawk or Demi-Human Yosh, firing the healing bullet straight at whatever the summon is fighting will almost always successfully hit and heal the summon for an impressively large amount of health. Knight's Lightning Spear. Whenever I get around to officially ranking these, this is easily going in the top 3. You get this one around midways into the Scorpion River Catacombs. Start at the Templetown Grace and take the river up northwest like you're going to fight Rugalea, and then take a left and travel up under the cliff. Holy shit, there is way too much going on with this incantation. That long list of bullet IDs does not do my anxiety any favors. 50 base lightning damage does not sound like a huge chunk of damage. It is also not a huge chunk of damage at all. But multiply that by the 4 peripheral spears that fire in tandem with the main bullet, and you're dishing out a total of 338 lightning damage as a base, and the charged variant goes for a little over 100 more. My only personal gripe with this incantation is that whether or not it's charged, the surrounding spears deal the exact same amount of damage, which does feel a little awkward. I understand it, like obviously you don't want to throttle the charged attack too much because it'll just feel like there's no drawback to it, and of course 6 lightning seals appearing instead of 4 does give the charged variant a nice dramatic visual. It just feels weird, especially since there are 2 separate IDs for it. Land of Shadow. Get it by trading it with the Scatter-Tree Avatar's Remembrance. If it's far away as fuck and it takes a long time charging up to you, this spell can melt it. I'm not sure what the effective range is on this spell, but everything I've been able to lock onto, no matter the distance, consistently eats the entire barrage without fail. So I'm just gonna say the range probably doesn't matter. If a target's movements are jerky and quick enough, they can still get hit by maybe half of it, but its total damage is only really worth it if the entire salvo of missiles actually land on the same guy. And that's really hard to accomplish when even the largest enemies in the DLC hop and skip around like they just stepped on a fucking wasp. It has an initial shockwave of 150 holy damage, but the long-winded casting animation makes it incredibly hard to line up enemies for it properly. You're just way better off using the projectiles as your main source of damage. Light of Miquella. Trade it in using the remembrance of the final boss of the DLC. I've tried every single seal in the game I know of so far. I've tried it with a dry leaf, I tried it with Spiral Tree, but no matter what my build is, the Golden Order seal just squeezes way too much out of it for any other seal to be worth considering. And it's still not really that good. 2,000 plus damage for 72 faith and 48 FP is just not that good in any context. The secondary Holy Rain after the initial burst is honestly just fanfare. It can't kill anything and it never will. Might as well be raining thoughts and prayers. The fact that it's only obtainable from the final boss remembrance means it's going to be assigned the unfortunate position of cleanup crew for eliminating side bosses. And I will admit, watching a Deathbird deep throat an orbital laser is pretty exciting, but if that's the only thing I'm doing with it, then I'm honestly just gonna look for something else. Messmer's Orb. Trade it in using Messmer's Remembrance. There is no consistency in the turning radius when you're in the air, or at least that's what it feels like. I'm 80% convinced there's a line of code that generates a number between 6 and shit and just plugs it into the animation before the spell fires. I've seen it do a barely noticeable half-degree correction and burn a slightly different corner of the wall my ass was facing because I accidentally locked onto something behind me. I've seen it do a 3/4 circle handbrake turn off a cliff and into Cringeville when all I was trying to do was hit the goddamn soldier right in fucking front of me. Plenty of the DLC's wildlife, like Rot Kindreds and Rugalea, have a pretty noticeable fire weakness, but I think the best way to use this one is to just study the attack patterns of bosses from very far away and space them out to where their final attack lands them right in front of you, at which point you should already be in the air charging the orb. Just takes a little bit of forethought. Other than that, the rest is pretty simple. 411 base fire damage is good no matter what environment it's in, so have fun. Midra's Frenzied Flame. Trade it in using Midra's Remembrance. It drives you crazy way too quickly to ever use this effectively without boluses to mitigate the buildup. I have the same personal gripes with this as I do with every other frenzy spell. Every time it feels like I'm finally doing some impressive damage with it, the game rips the controller out of my hands for 2 seconds and just flashes up a giant middle finger with the word madness in bold text, which is almost always just enough time for me to get haymakered by some bitch with a giant spoon or something. It's like doing office work with a bag of piss duct taped to your ceiling. It'll probably be fine as long as nothing unexpected happens, but get too comfortable at the wrong time and suddenly there's dire consequences you weren't ready to deal with. And then you have to explain to your coworkers why the piss bag was hanging there in the first place, and the only thing you can come up with is, look, it's my personal preference, and then stare at them like they're the fucking weirdos. It's fine enough, it's another piece you can tack onto your frenzy build, and you can stand right underneath the scrotum of the Scatter-Tree avatar or any dragon and give it a proper suntan, but the boss you get it from is way too far into the meat of the DLC for it to stand out among amongst other options, and there just ain't nothing out there that can beat Unendurable Frenzy. There's nothing is dethroning that shit. Minor Erdtree. From the Hinterland's Grace, head down the main path until you get jump scared by a tree sentinel. Kick his ass and then follow the path up from where he appeared. You'll find a village-esque area with 4 little houses, in the center of which lies the incantation. Shit heals 720 HP if you catch the entire effect, which is nowhere near enough healing to contend with the damage you're going to be taking in this DLC. Stand in a single spot without moving and then throw it on the ground, and maybe you'll receive enough healing for you to consider keeping it in your main loadout. But if you're moving around even a little bit, or would rather have fun actually playing the game without being tethered to an intangible Charlie Brown Christmas tree, then you might as well just forget about it. This shit needs 70 fucking faith. Multilayered Ring of Light, found by putting down the Misbegotten Crusader and the Stone Coffin Fisher. The ring has 2 phases. First is the initial big burst of damage, followed by the second barrage of light damage afterwards. You need to hit the enemy with the projectile. It has no return trajectory like the other Ring of Light incantations. And the secondary instances of damage do not track the enemy, at least not enough to matter. The follow-up damage does track enemies at 600 corrections per second, and it also has 0 velocity, which means it doesn't move, which means it can't track enemies. I genuinely have no idea how FromSoft designs half of these. It'll catch on a wall and make you hate yourself every so often, but when it's not doing that, it's honestly one of the most practical multi-use holy damage options in the DLC. Pest-Thread Spears. On your way up to fight Romina, head down from the Bud entrance Grace and back through the cave you entered, and the incantation is behind the ramp up. It's noticeably slower than regular Pest Threads, which gives it a proper amount of hang time you can use to line up another faster spell like Frenzy Burst. Tracking makes it good against anything with a stubborn movement pattern, especially because anything that has the ability to evade will do so when the spears launch and not while the spears are tracking them. But if the target is too far away, the range will likely fizzle out before it gets to do any damage. Charging takes quite a bit of time compared to its normal casting animation, but once you get into Scatter-Tree level 10 and above, the damage improvement usually hovers around 1000 at least. Take the opportunity to charge it against unaware field bosses so you can start off the fight with an effective first strike. Otherwise, the regular cast does plenty enough damage. It does about as much damage as you'd expect from harpooning something with 2 massive milk missiles. Rain of Fire. Get it from Shadowkeep at the end of a long-ass hallway after dodging a Fire Knight using it against you. My only advice is to forget you ever came across it and hope they missed a 0 on the final damage and that they end up fixing it in the next week or two. If patch 1.12.1 doesn't include a 10x damage boost to Rain of Fire and a formal apology to the community, this video probably won't even go live. I have no tips for this, because in its current state, it is unusable. Literally the only thing I can come up with is using fire to trigger the good old stop, drop, and roll animations on enemies like Mirandas and Finger Creepers. I really just hope this is a mistake. Jesus Christ. Roar of Rugalea. Get it from the Rugalea side boss after heading northwest from the Ravine North Grace. An incantation of what is jokingly called the Bear Communion? By who, FromSoft? That one drug-addled merchant chilling out below the Frenzied Flame prescription? Give me one NPC you've created in this game with a sense of humor unbreakable enough to watch a person literally turn into a fucking grizzly and say, she using that old Bear Communion incantation. Oh, and it sucks really bad too. The regular cast is able to knock enemies backwards, similar to Wrath of Gold and Grail's Roar, so there is some potential CC utility to explore if you're fighting in areas with lots of fall zones. The charged cast just feels weird at the moment. It's a multi-hit shockwave that sort of holds enemies in place for a second, but the stagger values on it are literally just 0. So anything bigger than a roided up poodle is gonna march right through it and smack your nuts off. Although the multi-hit still does 70 stamina damage per tick, so I guess the charged cast could be a great counter to shields if you're really looking for a way to use it. Rotten Butterflies. Get it from Romina's Remembrance. If you can deal with its inconsistency against smaller targets, this is actually a really wonderful zoning spell against Horned Warriors, Fire Knights, Hippos, whatever the fuck these guys are in Midra's mats. The extremely long windup demands some incredible forethought when casting it. I'd say at least like 3 full seconds. It's extremely difficult to actually pull this one off, but the butterflies can still spawn a second or so after you've been in the air. So even if you do get knocked out of it, the spell itself will still continue like normal. My solution to this is to grab the good old-fashioned Opaline Bubble Tear or an uplifting aromatic and just pop on that shit while you're casting if you anticipate getting hit by something. This is a 3-second casting time with almost no noticeable hyper armor, so whatever tools you have to mitigate damage in the process, you should definitely use them. Spira. Head down the hallway, then head outside to the left, and continue into the upper area until you find a drop-off point that allows you to do some platforming on this tree. Go straight left from there, and it'll be on on an isolated platform. It catches on walls and random objects sometimes, which is kind of annoying, but God forbid a person think a second or two ahead every now and then. You can hold the button down to cast multiple consecutive spirals, and it even has a bit of lazy tracking on it if a target moves, but lazy tracking is the most dishonest understatement of the year. Lazy doesn't even begin to describe how unmotivated this spell feels. If someone sees you and advances towards you with a pace any faster than half-dried paint scooting down a wall, just stop holding down that button and do something else, because it's not gonna hit. The vertical hitbox is high enough to connect with the heads of dragons, so that's pretty nice. It makes short work of Ghostflame dragons. Come to think of it, these poor big guys have way too many weaknesses. Hey, where's my Frenzy Dragon, by the way, FromSoft? You made that whole fucking empty forest you could have put him in, and you barely even used it for anything. Like, what the fuck, man? Watchful Spirit. Use in tandem with other spells and weapons to stun NPC enemies and prevent them from being too aggressive. It's not the most damaging, nor does it need to be. If the bullet can get your target to flinch, it's done its job, and that's all it'll ever do, so don't go throwing this at a Fire Knight just because it's holy damage and expect to blow its head off. It's not consistent, it's not reliable. You could be penance staring your enemy from point blank and it would still find a way to miss if it felt stubborn enough. On the rare once in a blue moon occasion where your entire fighting space is a narrow hallway and your enemy has no other choice but to run conveniently straight at you, and they just so happen to be weak to holy damage, Watchful Spirit may actually put in the legwork and do something good. Wrath from Afar. From the storehouse loft grace, take the elevator up to the rafters and it'll be on the giant gear directly in front of you. Use that ladder over there to reach it. Man, I'm sorry, it really should not have taken this long for them to give us this. Just be careful about spamming it because the knockback effect only applies to someone when they've fully recovered and they're back up and fighting. It still suffers from the same drawback that it has for years, which is that the projectile may not always launch your enemy directly where you want them to go if it lands anywhere other than dead center. It is a CC utility, but it still demands way more accuracy than what people expect. If you ever catch yourself fighting near a cliffside, you can probably use this, but you can also give yourself valuable breathing room against an aggressive enemy, and it's a great way to line fuckers up for an easy charged heavy or a spell with a 3-second long wind-up time. Hell, you can force enemies to drop off 2-foot ledges and they still get knocked on their ass like a cartoon character slipping on a banana peel.